Do you mind that I can see the very bottom tip of your microphone in the frame?
No, not at all. It gives a sense of we're in the studio.
Hmm. Does
It
it?
gives a sense of, wow, we're even highlighting the artifice and we're saying, look at us with our microphones and our headphones. This is not a kind of unmediated, objective reality conversation. This is a highly produced, scripted medium.
Erotic, 90-minute short film.
Look right into your podcast app. You'll see there's a discourse happening. Is this book a masterpiece or problematic? One's a lifelong diehard fan, the other's a first-time reader. Both are really smart and funny and attractive. Sweet Valley, Sweet Valley High. Talking trends and hierarchy. Sweet Valley, Sweet Valley High. With madness focus on their bodies. Sweet Valley, Sweet Valley High. What do they mean by all American? Sweet Valley, Sweet Valley High. No sex, just titillation.
So
What?
this book is bad.
100% agree.
Oh, okay.
This book is terrible.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't find it enjoyable
Good.
or engaging.
Agree. I didn't find it good. I found it bad. But guess what? Remember when I think it was when we read the second one on the run, and I was like, there's a couple more thrillers. It's kind of a mixed bag. There's one that's like random in the woods. That's Barbara. Then there's like one that's like even worse than this one. And you said, how could there be one that's worse than this one? That was this one.
I knew it was this one. When I as I was reading, I did take solace and comfort in like, Pardo warned you about this. This one is worse. That's okay.
I will tell you, the next one is my favorite of these five.
There's another super thriller.
It's like after all the superstar editions or whatever the next thingies are, but it's later. It's my favorite. It's called Murder on the Line. And I love it so much. Anyhow, this one's shit. But I almost think I felt the same about On the Run, that like even though the central plot is really stupid, there are some moments in how we get there that actually are pretty interesting along the
Oh,
way. So I find I have some, not a ton, but like I did enjoy some aspects of this. And again, I think it's like reading it after already knowing where the plot goes and already having my anger or frustration and sort of having made my peace with that, or at least acceptance of it, I'm able to sort of go into it not being disappointed by that and being allowed to pay attention to other things, which I think is the case for me with these.
that's a real gift. And you're bringing that gift to me. You're bringing that gift to our listeners. I don't have that gift. So I was mostly just like, ugh, for basic. So most of my notes are just like question mark exclamation points.
I just thought of something so funny because I was
Say
just
it.
thinking like, oh, won't it be interesting like for you to read these all a second time? And I'm thinking maybe that's the next podcast is we do the whole thing again from book one, but this time you're doing a second reading. And maybe
Yeah, I'm
we
not.
find a new, and then maybe we bring Elliot on, and she's the new you. And
Oh,
every time we bring on a new newbie, and then ooh, that's interesting.
that is it. Well, but what about a new you as well? Like, what if we bring on a new newbie and a new old bee? I'm not
We don't
becoming
need
the old bee. We're creating a sandwich where
no,
it's
we don't need
someone
it.
newer than me and someone older than you.
Okay, I hate this because I need to be the sort of primal
Yeah,
authority.
I knew that was coming.
But
Duh.
also, the whole point is the newbie's becoming the oldie. You know what I mean? So it's like it's also what's interesting about it is the newbies change in role over the seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I
Like
see that, but also you must understand that that presupposes that like you've ascended some nirvana-like state, and we're all just trying to get up to you. And wouldn't it be nice if there were like a growth model for you where you too could grow?
no, it is an MLM. You do have to pay in to it, but you keep bringing in the newbies and you're going to see that money. Okay. Do you have any hi, how are you? But or I guess we already are talking about the book. Yeah, it's bad.
It's just
It's
not a
bad.
good book. I just like I didn't find it suspenseful or thrilling.
It's ridiculous is what it is. It's a ridiculous, just the plot. The plot is ridiculous. The plot is ridiculous. It's annoying. It's lazy.
It's
And
thin too. It's just like very short.
it's like nothing. But again, there are some kind of things around that that I do enjoy. So,
Okay, I look forward to that.
do you have a 6-word review? Wait, sorry. Did we say
No.
it's at the 4th super
Yes.
thriller? And it's called Deadly Summer. So we're back at the summer that has been the same summer of the other thrillers. Jessica and Liz are doing their summer internship at the Sweet Valley News. And it was like the first 2 thrillers centered around kind of stuff that happens at the Sweet Valley News, and they ended up getting chased by murderers. But then the third one like took a random turn. It was about this girl in the woods who might be a ghost. But this one is back at the news, sort of back at that kind of core model.
I mean, even the Ghost Girl was kind of news adjacent.
Oh yeah, because I had to write those columns. No, we're always kind of situated at the news, but I mean, it felt like that one sort of took place in the woods a lot, whereas this one, it's like we're spending a lot of time back at our office and like hearing the typewriters, and like it sort of feels familiar that way.
That's true. This isn't a 6-word review.
What is it?
Terror in the Subway, Part 4.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So at one point, Jess plays hooky from work and asks Liz to cover for her so that she can see Terror in the Subway Part 4. And Elizabeth says, "You want me to cover up for you so that you can go see something that incredibly stupid."
A 5-word review for this could be stupid is as stupid does, because the whole book is Liz calling Jessica stupid for things that aren't stupid, and Liz not knowing what is stupid and what is smart, and Liz being actually the fucking dumb one who can't put 2 and 2 together when she meets again in person the murderer who's been all over the news and is like staring him in the face, being like, "Where have I seen you before?" And who's actually the stupid one in this book?
Yeah. I mean, my thought was just so part of I think the humor of Terror in the Subway Part 4 is like the idea that there could be a 4th film about terror in the subway and how stupid it is. And even Liz says that. And like, this is the 4th super thriller. And I think there is some kind of, you might say, fractal recursivity or some kind of like meta commentary on the like, do we still have any gas left in this tank?
And of course, the answer is no. You're right. It's Terror at the Western Building, Part 4.
That's what I'm trying for. Yeah, that I think is my 6-word summary. What we've done together. What's yours?
Okay, I have 2. One is silly and one is serious. Okay, the first one is too much chicken in this book. You could read this book, think it was sponsored by like Chicken Farmers of America, because there are 3 separate meals that we are told of 3 separate chicken dishes.
I did think there was a moment where Alice has the chicken breasts, and I thought, oh boy, did boneless, skinless chicken breasts have a moment in the 90s, you know?
Well, first it's chicken salad that we get.
Cold chicken salad, sorry. Cold chicken salad. It's specified that it's cold chicken salad.
Sweetie, you're talking about meal 2. I'm talking about chicken salad like tuna salad.
Okay.
Okay?
Sorry.
So, but I understand why you're confused, because the word chicken and salad comes together twice. But it's first is talking about chicken salad as in like pulled chicken with a sort of mayo or vinaigrette, like a tuna salad.
Which is something I have literally no familiarity with whatsoever.
You've never heard of chicken salad?
I must have heard of chicken salad.
No, Robert, that's no offense, but you're being deranged. Chicken salad is like a staple of American culture. I don't know what to tell you. Chicken salad.
Thank you for American-splaining chicken salad to me.
I can't. And then the second was the one you were thinking of, which was when Liz is babysitting, or almost has babysitting until she like tells the mom that there's a psycho on the loose and has to go home. But when she thinks she's going to be babysitting, the mom's like, "There's cold chicken and salad for you in the fridge."
That and is doing a lot of work there for me.
And these both could legitimately be called cold chicken salads. It's sort of a deconstructed cold chicken, you know. And then the third, of course, we never get to the sort of cooked version, I don't think, but we see Alice handling the raw chicken breast, as you said. And I'm thinking, wow, we've now seen chicken 3 times. It feels like a lot.
And sorry, your 6 words was?
Too much chicken in this book.
Okay.
But then my other one is...
That's the serious one, and now this is kind of the whimsical one?
Yeah, is like... What are valid ways of knowing,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And Robert is nodding with a knowing expression on their face. And because I think they note to what I refer is this book is about competing forms of knowledge. The whole, like, you could call it a B. Actually, it's the A plot. The A plot of this book is like Jessica and Lila have a Ouija board, and Liz pisses Lila off by calling them both stupid. And Lila's like, let's get a revenge on her by doing a plot. And the plot is like, since she's been kind of degrading the Ouija board, why don't we get her to believe it and play a trick on her where we sort of plant things that will seem like predictions because how could we have known? And then we'll get her to believe it or whatever. And they do these sort of escalating things. But the whole time Liz is calling it stupid and dumb and contrasts it with, like, for example, her work at the news where she focuses on facts. And like that's the way that she makes sense of the world. And like it really stresses her out that the Ouija board might be right. And like Jess finds her secretly reading Beginner's Guide to Occultism. It's almost like a recorder for her, drawing her in this way, but she's embarrassed by it. And Robert's saying yes, and I'm feeling the same way.
I too had a Ouija board recorder overlap in my
Right?
reading. Yeah.
Because she makes such a big deal of how she, but so she increasingly becomes kind of bought into this. And there are all these moments where Jessica, in such astute ways, and has such a sophisticated, a more sophisticated way of thinking, where she sort of highlights the ambiguity of the difference between different types of information and like instinct versus information versus sort of clairvoyance versus like subconscious forms of knowledge. Where, for example, outwardly, she says to Liz and to all her friends at school, like, the Ouija board works, the Ouija board works. And her and Lila are like telling everyone it works. Then her and Lila are doing it, and it tells us, like, secretly, Jessica knew it didn't actually work. She knew that she or Lila was like pushing it the whole time, right? And then when she tries to when they try to convince Liz, for example, that the Ouija board did a successful prediction when it tells them a concert's going to be canceled, and it's like they couldn't have had that knowledge, but somehow Lila finds out, whatever. Then Liz is like telling Jess, well, no, I still don't think it worked. You guys were faking. You guys were pushing it. And then Jess goes, even if that's true, even if we were pushing it, some spirit told us to push it to that. So how did we know? It's even if we were faking, still something's working, right? And Liz doesn't really have anything to say to that. And then later, in the climax of the book, when Jess is realizing that Liz is in danger, she has her twin intuition, this sort of clairvoyant intuition. And her and Lila are doing the Ouija board. And it says like Liz in danger or whatever. And Jessica throws in. She's like, Lila, don't. And Lila's like, I really wasn't. And Jessica's like, oh God, I wasn't too. But they don't then go to believe in supernatural influence. Jessica says, well, maybe subconsciously I was doing it because I'm having this subconscious twin intuition, which I do trust because that has proven valid in the past. See other examples of Liz in a trunk. And so then she follows that intuition and she's correct, right?
As I was reading, I was like knowing that we were going to talk about this, and I don't have a clear stance. I don't have a clear understanding of the book's kind of commentary on it. And so I think it's kind of an interesting topic. I don't know how interesting the book handles it, but maybe there's some more interesting, because isn't there a moment also when Liz says the Ouija board can't be real, this kind of stuff doesn't exist, you're like asking to believe in ESP, and Jess says to her, but don't you believe that like we have a twin connection? Wouldn't some people call that ESP?
Exactly.
And so there are these moments of that happening and that being questioned and then kind of responded to. I'm just not totally sure where the book stands or where I stand on twin ESP. Well, no, the book clearly stands very pro twin ESP. So maybe it's just me that I don't know.
Okay, well, you should think very carefully before you sort of decide to share publicly your stance on twin ESP.
Yeah.
Given the current moment, given the sort of current landscape. But as far as what the book, as far as what the book thinks, I think the book is showing the limits of Elizabeth's very black and white thinking. Like, I think the book is complicating, and I think the book is saying what you sort of consider as out of bounds of the type of things you trust actually is very within the bounds of the type of information and knowledge you trust. And like, it's not such a black and white of like what the newspaper does and what a Ouija board does or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah,
What's your
it's
beef? You're having consternation right now, and I don't know why. You're very bothered by how can I help you?
yeah, I don't think you can. I think it's just the book itself is so boring and bad. And I think my natural inclination is to be like, ugh. And your natural inclination is to be like, well, what can we pull out of this?
Oh, I absolutely. The main thing is to rail on this book. This book is
Okay.
terrible.
Okay. Okay.
But
So we're united in that.
the reason I did my whole spiel on what I thought was interesting and what I do think is interesting about that whole knowledge question is because it was my 6-word review.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
for my 6-word review, I was trying to think about what is interesting about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, if I would have read this for the first time, there's no way I could have space in my heart to consider what I'm saying about this because it's so frustrating. This book just sort of builds up to nothing and it's really stupid. And of course, you come away with such a feeling of frustration from that. You need time to sort of process that.
Yeah,
And like,
I'm
I've had
grieving.
20, 30 years on you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why my heart is open. It's not that I so want to look for the good. I think it's more, yeah, like with every reading of this book, I'm able to, it just doesn't come as a surprise. Like, it's almost like I have a resilience against some of that just from having these multiple readings, which I feel like I should do a better job acknowledging.
Thank you. I mean, it's called Deadly Summer. Could
Mhm.
someone have died?
You know what else? On page 10, Bruce is coming from his tennis game and he's being his typical obnoxious Bruce self. He had just come from the courts and the master wins again. Thank you very much. Does the phrase complete and total massacre in italics mean anything to you kids? And they're all going, oh, Bruce, he's so arrogant and isn't it funny? And it's, the end of chapter 1. And we're thinking the text is pointing out this question of complete and total massacre. And it's sort of, sort of teasing that in a way. Are we going to get a complete total massacre that will give Robert the chance to accurately maybe use the word final girl? No.
No, we can't. We can't.
As
Not
you
even close.
pointed out, yeah, we're not even getting one
What? Not a death.
dead. But it is that thing where, like, similar to the other ones and similar to Lost at Sea, I think, when you know that some kind of murder or some kind of thing is coming from the cover and the title or the genre of what it is, like they always do this, or kidnapped or hostage, they always do this thing of like starting super banal and putting in all these things where you're thinking like, oh, it's sort of dramatic irony, like, oh, they don't know what's coming, or like, oh, wow, they're actually ironically foreshadowing something they don't know about, or oh, Jessica putting on her mascara, she's not going to need that later, or like, I hope it's waterproof, or whatever it is, right? We would have reason to think there could be a total massacre.
How great would that be? I'm not advocating violence, but I am advocating fictional violence.
You're being a monkey paw. You're being a monkey paw because when the actual big one hits, or when something else happens, let's just say more than one person will die in one day. That might happen.
This does feel spoilery. I want to be
No, it's
so
not.
one thing that's hard for me is that I express sometimes, and instead of us just kind of having an open conversation about like, well, what would feel spoilery to you? Would it feel spoilery if you knew that multiple people died in a single book? Yes, it would. Oh, okay, then maybe I won't say that.
But Robert, I was sort of lying because it actually doesn't even happen.
I see this. I hate. It's just the way that you were such a cat, just kind of pawing at, playing, dangling
Okay, I'm sorry.
the mouse.
I am sorry.
Does Scar do this in The Lion King where it's like the mouse is on his paws, he's just kind of like messing with it?
Yes, famous gay villain.
Yeah, well, I don't like you turning into one.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, well, I guess, do you want to guess the back tagline?
Yeah, I've seen the back tagline.
Okay, it's nothing.
It's nothing and it's something. The back tagline is,
yeah. Oh, you're right.
Revenge.
You're right. It is.
And
yeah.
so one of the things
smart.
that is frustrating about this text is that the quote unquote purported revenge, and we should just summarize the plot of the book, but it's all a sentence, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
This paranoid schizophrenic man got out of the local psychiatric ward. He returns to Sweet Valley to blow up. Is it the Sweet Valley Stadium? What is he blowing up? It's like it's a stadium.
Well, like at the end,
Yeah.
it's just their school. It's like their football thing at their or whatever at their school.
Oh.
Like it's part of the.
I was picturing it not being part of the school. Well, as we dig in, I'll have to figure out what led me astray in that way.
It is because remember she went to meet them at the tennis courts at the end.
Yes, 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 yes. And his getting revenge on the fact that 14 years ago, people in high school were mean to him is blowing up the Sweet Valley Stadium now, which doesn't make a ton of sense. It doesn't get back at anyone who was bad to him. It doesn't make it so one would be forgiven if they were like, wait, this book has no revenge in it at all. The revenge doesn't make sense. The actual revenge, of course, you've already alluded to, which is Lila getting revenge on Liz for making her feel stupid, question mark, or for winning the heart of Jeffrey Franch, exclamation point.
Yeah.
And I think that is interesting. This, like, the psychological play of what Lila is doing vis-a-vis Elizabeth and Jeffrey Franch's relationship, that's a book I would read.
Agree. 100%. Like that was the, I think, other interesting thing in this book. And to explain to the listeners, like basically Liz is dating Jeffrey French.
If you don't
When
know
Jeffrey-
that, listeners, like, go back
What if
40
someone-
books.
What if someone just decides to listen now?
I don't think you should. This is a bad book and a confusing episode.
No, it's a great episode. Okay. Liz is dating Jeffrey French. When Jeffrey first came to town, Lila and Enid were both into him. He ended up with Liz. Since then, in Slam Book Fever, we already have learned, which until then it hadn't been mentioned, which it had been kind of a while, so it was kind of interesting. But at that point, we learned that like Lila still had a thing for him and was still resentful about this. And at that point, she like started this rumor on the Slam Books to try to unsuccessfully break Jeffrey and Liz up. Jess and Olivia figured out that it was Lila that started this and like whatever, they resolved it. And then in this book, when we get Lila's interiority, we see that, as Robert said, it's not only that she's upset by Liz calling her stupid, but also the fact that she's resenting Liz because she wants Jeffrey for herself. So part of what she's doing to get the revenge on Liz is these pranks to make her be feeling foolish or whatever when she realizes she like fell for this Ouija thing. But it's also the way that the pranks get heightened is that she ultimately suggests to Jessica, well, why don't we pretend that someone is dying? And she's like, but to make it not too upsetting for her, we'll make it someone that she doesn't like. So they make it Bruce. And the idea is that it's like, oh, it'll be funny to see Liz, who actually hates Bruce, be conflicted and like have to be nice to him or something, is what Jessica thinks the plan is. Lila secretly has been sort of thinking, you know what? I feel like whatever happened with Bruce and Liz during Dear Sister, book number 7, when Liz bonked her head and let Bruce touch her boob before he tried to rape her. Lila's like, I feel like that had a spark. Maybe I can make that be a thing since Jeffrey's out of town. So she basically is like plotting that this is actually going to bring Liz and Bruce together. And then that will leave Jeffrey for her. And, you know, she tries and it kind of works and then it doesn't.
Did it bother you that Jessica was okay with that part of the plan? Because I just immediately
What,
Jessica's
pretending that Bruce is dying?
well, pretending that Bruce is dying because then Liz will get closer to him.
No, Jessica didn't know that that was why.
She kind of does.
No. Oh, I don't think so. Okay, so we can go to the text, but my understanding, and I'm certainly willing to be corrected, but my understanding, Robert, was that Jessica thinks what they're doing is like, oh, won't it make Liz feel foolish and won't it be funny for us to see her have to sort of struggle with being compassionate to him when sort of the dramatic irony of that, like them knowing that he's really an asshole and that he's healthy and he's not dying, and like, or when she finds out she'll be embarrassed or something like that, I think was what Jess thought.
Well, but Lila's like, oh, you know how nice she would be to someone she liked. She'll be really nice to Bruce because she thinks he's dying. And then Jess is like worried because she's like, Bruce is a scumbag. I don't love the idea of Liz. Like, I just didn't buy that Jess would go along with it.
I think whether she would go along with it and whether she knew that that was the reason are two different questions. Like, I think if she had known that that was the reason, I do not think she would go along with it. But we'll go to the text. Okay, you want to see the cover?
Have we done the plot summary?
Yeah. Or then the guy tries to blow up the school, and Liz and Jeffrey and Bruce end up in utility closet and like save each other's lives, and everything ends up fine.
Yep.
Or something. Oh, because he thinks she's fucking
Melanie.
Oh, by the way, the 6-word review of this book should have been incel propaganda, because that is what this book is. It's another mentally ill incel who, the reason why he is mentally ill and is trying to be a mass murderer is because a girl he was sexually interested in was mean to him in high school.
And then he kidnapped her.
Right, yeah. And then he kidnapped her. And the kidnapping, and it literally says this in the book, and I put stars and we can go to the text or whatever, but it's like, what drove him to the kidnapping was like her rejection of him and all the kids teasing him. And we're like, okay. And like the reason he decides to try to, he like comes back to blow up the high school and everyone was mean to him in his mind or whatever, but he fixates on Liz. Like the reason Liz specifically is in danger is because when he sees her, he confuses her for the girl he liked 20 years ago or whatever.
Melanie.
And like Melanie, and like this all gets basically facilitated because this guy, who by the way we should say his name, we unfortunately should remember it at least for the course of this episode, is Donald Redman. And he by coincidence is brothers of the mom that Liz is babysitting for. So he like sees her there, and then Liz figures out that he's the murderer, and she calls her to be like, hey, that guy that came to your house, he kind of looks like Donald Redman or something. And this woman's like, no, it isn't him. Ha ha ha. And Liz is like, okay, I guess I won't call the police. And then we get like that woman's interior, and you're like, you're a bad person.
She's such a bad person. It's
like
really,
this is gonna end with her being considered a bad person, right? But no, she gets like completely just like for like as if that was like a normal thing to do, just like put this girl in danger. He's put the whole town in danger.
Yeah.
He's about to he has sent fake bombs and threatened to like properly fucking blow up all of Sweet Valley, and she's just like twiddling her fucking thumbs.
Yeah, I think we're like supposed to feel like Elsa Bartels, another name we don't know or need to know, but Elsa Bartels, his sister slash Liz's babysitting mommy. I think the book is trying to tell us like, oh, she's in a really tough place. Like, do you pick your brother or do you pick like, and it's like, what the fuck? You turn your brother into the cops. Not that, I mean, we don't believe in cops, but like, you do something. You take some action so your brother doesn't kill everyone.
You do something, yes, because I completely agree. Like, that's one of the things that's very frustrating about this book is like, just that scene of her interiority of being like, nope, not him, haha, getting off the phone with Liz. Her hands are in her temples. What should I do? What should I do? I'm like, what should you do?
Yeah, another character that just made absolutely no sense. I was hoping that she was going to turn out to be the girl that he had lusted after. No.
But again, it's like a pointless suspense. It's like, ooh, what's her relationship going to be? And like, we're assuming, because we have no other things to think about, that like, that's the girl, right? If he's coming, because they show us these clues that Elsa's like freaked out by it. Because when Liz is like, how are you? Like, I'm about to babysit your kid. Did you see on the news this psychopath? And they, of course, are completely just conflating, psychopathy, schizophrenia, and anything else. But she's like, have you seen this escaped psychopath is on the loose? Haha, like, have fun at your event. And the woman's like, him coming here, Donald Redman, to our town. And like, she had such a look on her face. And it's like the way she says his name or whatever. It's like, okay, she has some connection. So you're just like, okay, is she Melanie? And then he's doing these calls at the house and he shows up and we think it's going to be that. But then she's not Melanie. She's the sister. It's like, would have been more interesting if she was Melanie.
Yeah, why does he need a sister?
Because it's a pointless reveal. It's a pointless like twist or something. Because it's just to like do something that isn't expected, but it's not interesting. It doesn't make anything like it's just like, ugh.
There are lots of the other big thing, like he got locked up after he tried to kill his mom and dad. He didn't even successfully kill his mom and dad.
Loser.
Just like let him kill his mom and dad, Francine. Don't be such a coward. People die.
Yeah, and it's like, so everyone's always talking about how he's such an electronics genius and he makes these genius bombs. I'm like, so how come that one didn't work? Sounds like a flop.
Is there anything else about this book? I mean, the cover's going to be nothing, right? It's the two of them. They're kind of scared looking. I wish it were the two of them with the Ouija board being like,
That'd be awesome. No, it's the other thing you could think of. Like there is a sort of place that they're in. Like if we
look,
think
they
the
could be in
first
the
one,
newsroom. They could be in the stadium. They could be waiting outside the movie theater after the bomb threatened evacuation.
that's too specific.
Sorry.
That would never happen.
You're dumb for thinking that. Remember that time that I thought,
Yes,
okay,
it was in Leaving Home, and you thought that the fucking Switzerland scholarship guy would be on the cover. I'm like, Robert, no.
I love that you do such beautiful kind of encyclopedic memory work of the texts and our podcast, and you mostly leverage that just to kind of call to mind instantly when I was a moron.
I never said the word moron. Okay.
Wait, where are they? Are they in the newsroom?
Yeah,
Well, I said that. That was my first guess, wasn't it?
I know.
Oh.
You're correct.
Oh, but you let me keep guessing other things.
Well, I knew you were going to find out soon that you were right.
Fine. Wait, can I see yours?
You have a weird, like, new edition? Show me. Show me.
Are you
Did
ready?
get I mean, no, but show me. Ew, Robert. You should always get the circle if you have a choice.
I mean, I don't know if I have a choice. I'm buying on a website.
Yeah, I'm buying on a website and I make sure to always get the circle when I can, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't. Oh, I hate when they change to that rectangle.
Maybe that's why I didn't like this. Maybe subconsciously, like so much of a Ouija board, I could feel like, oh, this is pushing me away.
But you know why that couldn't be true? I'll just give you some contrary evidence. Is that when I was a kid, my Murder on the Line edition was the rectangle, and it was still my favorite. So
that can't be true.
no, so I'm just saying it's in support of how bad this book is.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing to say about the cover, TBH. So whatever.
I do kind of like Liz's face. She's definitely like, so Jess has got a open mouth OMG. But Liz has kind of like a kind of face on. Do you know what I mean by that?
How would you describe that to the listeners?
I mean, it made that noise.
And you can go
she's
to
like-
our Instagram at Sweet Valley Hive to see the cover.
She's like looking off to the side. There's something interesting about her face.
Her face is a little bit wonky. Like they made her look a little bit like plastic surgery in the mouth, and her eyes are too big and they're too sloping. She doesn't look quite like her normal self, and her jaw is like weirdly stiff. I think she's supposed to be like alert and concerned and like, who's calling me and where's the call coming from? Jess looks like classic Jess.
Gorge. Truly,
All right.
as we would say in the business, gorgeois. So I will say, sometimes I'm like, the engine that drives the boat, who cares? It's so dumb. This book literally opens with Jessica Wakefield saying, I'm telling you, Liz, it's for real. And my marginalia immediately is, what is real, what is fake, reality and imagination? Pardo is going to want to talk about this.
It's funny. And then the next line, equally as important.
I'm sorry.
Elizabeth gave her identical twin sister a teasing grin and put a chicken hyphen salad plate on her tray. Now that's chicken one, chicken salad one. And I'm not saying chicken and salad are playing against each other and it's 1-1. No.
Well, no,
I'm saying
only
it's our
one.
first- It's her first chicken salad.
Okay.
And she's
Come
like,
on,
come on,
Jess.
Jess. You don't really believe all that crazy Ouija board stuff, do you?
Then how do you explain it? It knew I'd have a date for the Endless Summer concert.
I just wrote, it feels good to be back at the Western Building. I like it. It's comforting. After being in the woods with Barbara, it was just so strange, the last one.
I hated it.
And also, did you notice in their, when they do their little recap of like, oh, well, they were back at their, third or sixth week or whatever of summer jobs, like after trying to be murdered a couple times already, and like that, it goes, not even Elizabeth had expected their summer to be so exciting. Within days of starting their internships, the twins had been caught up in a grisly murder case. That's the first one, Double Jeopardy. When that was wrapped up, mob hitmen And a boy in the protective witness program, that's number 2 on the run, had dragged Elizabeth and Jessica into serious danger. Summer's almost over. I'm like, so they completely declined to mention that they made a freaky ghost girl in the woods. And it's like, yeah, you know why? Because it's like, would take too long to explain that they can't even fit it in this recap. So they're like, let's just pretend that didn't happen.
I was happy to hear from Endless Summer. I did think it was kind of funny that Liz is like, well, of course the Ouija board knew that you would have a date. You always have a date.
You didn't explain what Endless Summer is.
They're a band. They're the hottest
No,
band
it's a
in LA.
concert.
Well, I thought it was a band's concert. I thought Endless Summer was a band and they were a concert. They're giving a concert.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Is that not right?
No, you may be right.
I never have been before.
I thought it was like the name of the party. You know how later there's a event at the school and it's called like Be Proud of Your School Night or whatever.
I think it's Be True to Your School, but yes.
Yeah. I thought Endless Summer Concert was like, it's the time that's being the endless summer and we're making a concert about it, you know?
I like that.
I guess, well, we can look for other examples to try to clarify, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. In the boilerplate description of the twins, I don't know if this has been said before, and you would know. This has been said before. Only the fact that Elizabeth always wore a watch and Jessica never did was a giveaway. As their mother often joked, Elizabeth had been born on time and Jessica 4 minutes late. I don't know that we know the 4-minute difference. I don't know if I've heard mom say Liz was on time and Jess was 4 minutes late. What a shitty thing to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, talk about setting her up from birth. Like,
Literally.
talk about like constructing this. I mean, it's outrageous. I don't think we've heard this particular kind of framing of
I hate
that.
it.
Agree.
We get more talk of paranormal activity.
Jessica is smart and correct when she tells Liz that there are things that contemporary science does not understand. For example, UFOs and paranormal disturbances. That is true. That is real. Check out Investigation Alien on Netflix. And if you don't believe in paranormal things being real, I have an article to send you about this story of this woman whose house was possessed. Can I just please quickly
You can tell me. No, I'm just saying don't send it to me. Tell me as much as you want.
We'll put it in the works cited.
I'm very spooky.
There was this movie or TV show that came out, which like I didn't watch, but it was based on a true story of this woman who her and her family experienced some demon shit in her house. And you're thinking, well, what do you mean true story? Like I've read or I've seen accounts of paranormal things where it's witness accounts and stuff like that. But like there was accounts by the doctors, by the police officers, everyone and the like institutional people. Not saying their knowledge is more valuable than whatever, but it's pretty unusual to see like the doctor's note or the police officer's note being like, and then the kid floated up to the ceiling, and it's in the paperwork. Literally,
I can't.
I
love you. I can't.
So what I'm saying is like these things are real. UFOs are real. And as Robert said before, she also says to Liz, and we have our ESP, which they've demonstrated. And Liz is like, that's nothing like a Ouija board. I'm like, okay. Also, just like Liz not giving Jess enough credit. Liz is like, the rational explanation was obviously that Lila or Jess, consciously or unconsciously, is guiding the Ouija board. What Elizabeth didn't understand was how Jessica could be so gullible about it. And of course, she like doesn't think that maybe Jessica isn't being gullible. Maybe she's suspending disbelief or practicing belief for the purpose of doing something that's interesting and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that like, as we later learn, yeah, secretly she knows she was pushing it, or Lila was, but they're enjoying this. It's like, why is that bad?
Yeah, I agree. Why can't girls just like things?
When Liz gets a letter from Jeffrey and brings it to school, she's like, I got another letter from Jeffrey at camp. And then Enid goes, Enid's like, it must be colder up there than it is down here. I'm like, Enid, could you be more boring? Could you be more boring that you're interested in Liz's, and I know it's not boring, it's that she's obsessed with Liz, but still, it's like, could you be like that you're interested in these fucking dumb, boring letters from Jeffrey? B, that you are actually actively participating in this conversation, and see that the way you're doing that is by being like, is it colder up there than it is down here? Like, go away.
Okay.
What have you ever done for us?
Wow.
Except have that bitchy grandmother who was fun.
I loved her bitchy Nana. Hashtag bitchy Nana forever. Okay.
Jeffrey, we need to sort of save just for plot that in Elizabeth's letter, Jeffrey told her he has like a secret good news, which I feel like a word for it could be surprise, but they keep using this phrase of like secret good news the whole book. I'm like, this is weird. But Elizabeth's like, I wonder what it is.
And Robert was like, I don't care.
That ends up being a thing because Jeffrey comes home early from camp and sees Liz and Bruce being sort of close in the kitchen and is like pissed off about it. So whatever, that's where that goes. Liz calls Lila stupid, and everyone else tells Liz, like, wow, how could Lila be annoyed about that? You know how she is being so sensitive and not taking a joke or something. Like, wow, no.
Yeah,
Liz is
even
wrong.
Jess is like,
Yeah.
she knew Elizabeth would never deliberately be insulting. And it's like, wait, Elizabeth would never deliberately be insulting? Of course what? She loves to be the deliberately insulting one.
And like, it's just rude. You don't call people dumb and stupid. It's so rude. I think with Jess, maybe it's just like this sort of instant reflex of being defensive for Liz. And I do think probably most of the time Lila would talk shit about Liz. It probably would be the type of unfair stuff, like making fun of her or whatever, saying she's boring or criticizing her or whatever. But this was a legit grievance.
I agree.
They do their scheme.
Ouija board predictions.
Prediction about the concert gets validated.
Immediately, which is interesting. Like, it's weird that Liz gets a call at home from Seth saying the concert's been postponed or something.
Right after they do the Ouija board thing, yeah.
Right after the Ouija board.
It's just kind of good timing.
But also, it's one of the things that you point out is that Liz says that Jess is really gullible for believing in the Ouija board. But the kind of way that so the concert thing is big because Lila has very, very, very privileged knowledge. Her very rich dad is knows the guy who's organizing it, blah, blah, blah. That's the only way she would possibly know. No one else would possibly know. All of the other secrets or all of the other revelations from the Ouija board are so stupid that it's like, Liz, you think Jess is the gullible one? Like the first one is that there's secret good news. And Liz is like, oh, have you been reading my letters? And Jess just says no. And she's like, huh. And then later, Liz's journal goes missing. And the Ouija board reveals that it's on top of the fridge. And Liz is like, well, if you didn't put it there, Jess, then it must be. And it's like, bitch, you're the delusional, gullible one. These things are not compelling. They're very, very simple explanations of how Jess would know them and then would push the planchette. A word the only word that appears more in this text than chicken is the word planchette, which is like the thingy that you use on a Ouija board, the planchette. It does come up a lot, doesn't it? Oh no, we lost her.
Well, they got to talk about who's moving the planchette. Are you moving it? Am I moving it? The Ouija board, the planchette. And Jessica, her fingers are getting tense.
On the planchette. It's real planchette lifestyle over here. But it's just like, Liz, these things are so obvious.
It's very stupid. It's like the easiest thing Jess could do. Put her journal on top of the fridge. Jessica's like, well, I didn't do it. It must have been the Ouija board. It's like crazy.
Yeah, because it's also like, what do you
think happened?
What she says she thinks happens is she put it on top of the fridge and then forgot about it.
Right.
And then the Ouija board told her.
And she's like,
what?
Oh, I guess I did.
It's like, is she brain damaged?
Liz basically says, well, you're never going to guess this coincidence. I just found out the concert actually has been canceled. She's like, but I know that the Ouija board didn't actually send messages from a time warp. It was just a lucky guess. And in the middle of that, she darts an apprehensive glance at her twin and swallows. And Jessica goes, Liz, even if Lila and I were faking it, which we weren't, it's got to be about 10 million to 1 we could guess something like that. Let's just say hypothetically that we were trying to fake you out. Something must have told us what prediction to make, right? So it still comes to the same thing. This is genius. This is such a brilliant critique of how we describe what's true and fake, and how we describe what's fraudulent and what's authentic in terms of predictions and insight. Can I just read you something from this book I have?
Yeah, can I? Yeah.
What?
Well, it's just so what's weird about that in this case, like in general, that is a really interesting, cool thing. In this case, what actually happened is they have privileged information that she doesn't have. So they aren't like her point actually doesn't apply to what she's talking about at all. Because she's saying, let's just say hypothetically, we were trying to fake you out. Something must have told us what prediction to make. So it still comes to the same thing. But that's not actually what happened because they weren't just guessing and happened to be right. It wasn't a coincidence. They knew in advance.
Right. She's just lying. Right. But it's stupid because this type of thing is something that like someone could find out, or like you would go to that explanation if you don't want to think it's the Ouija board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would just be like, oh, I guess probably they found out. Like, but why I do think they sort of put it there, even though it doesn't apply there, is to set it up so that later Jessica can think back to it, right? When she's like doing the thing with Lila and she's saying, well, maybe I subconsciously did it, but then there must be a reason I subconsciously did it. Liz must be in real danger, which is the interesting thing, I think. But
I'm back on board.
so in this book that I have called Speaking with the Dead, An Ethnography of Extrahuman Experience by Matt Tomlinson.
Is this going to be spooky?
No.
Okay.
It's an ethnography of spiritualist mediums in Australia. This is an anthropologist who spent some years training with them, trying to learn how to be a medium and write about them.
Can you learn how to be a medium?
Excellent question, Robert.
Oh, thank you.
These people believe that you can.
Oh,
that
cool.
It's something that you just have to cultivate.
I would love that.
It's fascinating. It's
I don't
really
know if
interesting.
I'd love that. Seems like a lot of pressure. Can you talk to every dead person or just certain dead people? Can't be every dead person because you'd be overwhelmed.
The way the spiritualist mediums that he describes worked is that they basically are just trying to connect to like the spirit in general, which just means like any spirits. And then who comes to them is someone that has something to say to whoever they're trying to medium on behalf of. And if they're doing like a group thing, it could be someone in the audience. They have to figure who it is. It's very interesting. But
I just feel like a lot of spirits would want to talk to me. And that would be kind of frustrating. Like I would be like trying to get a piece of my time.
Spiritualist authors draw on the meanings of both fraud and authenticity to confirm each other. Some of them put them into the same frame by suggesting that fraud only succeeds when it imitates an authentic possibility. British medium and longtime editor of Psychic News, Maurice Barbanel said, I think I can say I've exposed more charlatans in this field than any other person. He attributed his discernment to having seen honest mediumship. I have witnessed so many genuine phenomena that I was able to recognize the counterfeit. After all, the spurious is a copy of the real. Were there no genuine phenomena, there could be no simulations of them. And so Elizabeth's whole like obsession with this is fake, this is fake, this is fake, it does imply existence of the real. Okay.
Huh.
Doesn't it?
That's interesting.
Yeah. It sort of reminds one of Judith Butler. And also what's interesting is according to them, specific failures or also specific instances of fraud are not considered undermining to the project. Failures do not call the whole system into question, just individual performances. Small failures in ritual can help confirm people's sense that the larger project is working and greater truths confirmed. Oh my God. I have one thing to say in chapter 4.
So chapter 4 opens with Jessica at the Western Building waiting for Lila. And this was just so relatable to me. Humming to herself, she leaned against the wall and studied faces. She kept a running commentary with herself on the men that hurried past. Cute. Definitely cute. His hair is too curly. Now that one is prime. Too old. I was just like, God, I'm so Jessica. Do other people do this? It's just me and Jessica.
I knew you would like that.
You can't meet good-looking available men by staring at the sidewalk.
She's always working.
She works hard for the money. No hard for it, honey. The plot about Bruce is page 41.
Yeah.
And they talk about how she'll be really, really upset and super nice and helpful if it's someone she dislikes. Like, think about how interesting it will be to watch her have to be helpful and kind to someone she dislikes.
Okay, yeah, but the thing that I think we have to distinguish is, so Lila's like, say she finds out someone she knows is really sick. What would her reaction be? And Jessica goes, that's
simple. Are we
simple.
talking terminal? Oh, sorry. I thought we were going to do it, but never mind.
No, that's simple. If it was a friend of hers, she'd be really upset and she'd be super nice and helpful. And I think Lila there is intuiting that the key for Jess here is upset. Like she doesn't want to do something that's going to make Liz very upset, right? Lila's like, yeah, but what if it's someone she hates or really dislikes? And then they think, okay, Bruce. And then Lila says, Liz is going to get all mushy over Bruce and he won't even know what's going on. And Jessica says, and she'll think he isn't saying anything about dying because he doesn't want to talk about it. And she won't tell him she knows because she won't want to embarrass him, right? Jessica's mind was racing. Lila was right. It was the ultimate test. If Elizabeth could overcome her dislike of Bruce enough to be kind and sympathetic to him, it would definitely prove she believed what the Ouija board said. So that would make her foolish. And she's laughing, thinking it would be a priceless scene, Elizabeth in a tug of war between her conscience and her disgust for Bruce. So, according to that, I don't see Jessica having an awareness of, and also Lila didn't mention the idea that then the two of them would come closer together. And I think that to me is especially clear because when Jessica leaves is when we get Lila's interiority of the real reason. Lila is waving bye to Jess and she's in her mind thinking, if everything worked out, Liz and Bruce are going to be spending lots of time together. A tender romance would develop, and when Jeffrey returned, Sweet Valley's most rock-solid couple would be on the rocks. That's the reveal of that connection. Like, you know what I mean?
I do, but I mean, just Liz is going to get all mushy over Bruce.
But she doesn't mean, I don't think Jessica means romantic. I think she means like sappy, upset, and like concerned.
Okay. I kind of read it more romantic, which is why I really, really don't like it.
Okay, but I really think compared to what I said, like the
No.
ambiguousness of the word mushy is like not necessarily does a case make, and maybe
Yeah.
one could even say, you know what? You might even be the right one, my
So,
good friend
so sorry,
Peggy.
just to clarify what you think is you're right. Like,
No,
for
that's
a
not what I
change.
said. What I said was I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to hear it from one's nice friend once in a while, when one's nice friend is sort of saying, you know what, maybe I was not being the right one, thinking there was evidence in the text for what I was saying, and maybe my friend had more evidence in the text for what she was saying.
Okay.
And isn't she sometimes okay, let's just keep going. We don't have time for this. Okay, I must speak for once in my life.
Chapter 5?
One page before. When we're getting Lila's interiority, we get the
Yes.
biggest revisionist history and lies I've ever heard in my life, and this must be said.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's outrageous. They're explaining what happened with the whole slam book thing, and it says Lila tried to drive a wedge between Elizabeth and Jeffrey. She sabotaged the slam books, saying that Jeffrey was in love with Enid. And we pause and we
Yeah.
say, no, that's not what the slam book said. The slam book said that Jeffrey was in love with Olivia because he was famously spending a lot of time with her, helping her with her fucking arts magazine or whatever the hell that was. And Enid had nothing to do with it. And it says that Elizabeth wasn't, that she wrote in the slam books that Elizabeth was in love with Roger Barrett Patman. No, that never happened. The lie in the slam books, and which, by the way, we have a reveal now. Remember, we kept asking who put the lie about Elizabeth and AJ? It was Elizabeth and AJ that was a lie about, not Elizabeth and Roger. And here we are learning it was Lila who did both. Remember? You assumed this, Robert, and I said, I don't think so. I think Liz did it. And we've been saying we wonder who did it. Well, you were the right one on that.
Thank you.
But I don't know why they are doing this revisionist history. It's despicable. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for such thing.
I just put 2 exclamation points in the margin and just was like, whatever. But you're right.
Like, that makes me so mad. Okay.
I don't have the same anger.
Well, you're dealing with Donald Redman.
Always.
All right. Chapter 5, you learn about the quote-unquote schizophrenic dangerous man on the loose, escaped psychopath.
Everybody's in a tizzy. Like, you go over here and get this information. You go over there and interview the high school principal. You find this out. You find that out.
And Liz is way too excited about this.
And Liz and Jess have a red banner interaction.
Yes. Yes.
Well, come on. Elizabeth looked up at her twin in surprise. Don't you think this is pretty exciting? Not really. The police will get him before the paper even gets to the press. Pessimist, Elizabeth muttered as she leafed through the phone book. I'm a pessimist because I think the police will find an escaped lunatic before he starts parading through Sweet Valley with a chainsaw? I thought that was great.
Bravo, Jess. Exactly. So they're learning about the backstory with Redmond, how he tried to kill the parents, how he kidnapped the girl. And Seth the reporter at the newspaper goes,
Who sucks?
previously he sucks, goes, it was only for one day, but he definitely was holding her against her will. And I'm just like, the only one day, as if like, then we get the whole thing where Liz tells Elsa Bartell, she freaks out, she says, let's not have you be babysitting me.
And even at that moment, well, actually, before we even get to that moment, I'm proud of myself because we just get her mind racing. Elizabeth drove out of the parking garage and headed to Mrs. Bartell's house. My marginalia is Elsa Miss Homecoming, which is what we called Melanie, the woman who got kidnapped. It's the right age, so I was proud of myself for kind of even before anything else happened. I mean, I guess it's not that much to be proud of because she's the only new character and the only person who's the right age. Because at one point, I thought maybe
well, we know there's going to be something. We're always saying, how's the guy from the news going to be connected to us? So her going to Mrs. Bartell, who we never heard about before, I mean, she's definitely a contender. Go ahead.
Yeah. When Redmond goes to Bartell's house and sees Liz and is like struck and thinks that she's Melanie, for a split second, I was like, oh my God, was Alice Melanie?
Yeah.
Because wouldn't that be a great thing? But the ages don't line up.
No comment on that.
What do you mean no comment on that?
Not that Alice has a Melanie situation in the future, but Alice does have some kind of situation in the future that someone remembers her from somewhere, and that's all I was gonna say.
Right. So this is another great example.
No. Okay, fine.
No.
I'm sorry. But okay, I'm sorry. And I understand that you experienced this as spoiling. And I do just want to, for the record, say that like literally all I did say was that at some point someone remembers Alice from something. And that is all I said. Okay, but
I would like to kind of take one slow step and just say, so I said, oh, within this book, I thought there was a chance that it turned out that Alice was Melanie. And the most natural thing for someone to say in that situation is nothing. Or I thought that too, but the ages didn't line up. Or like to bring in another book from the future, I just don't understand it. You know what I mean? I just don't understand it.
Well, okay. I think it makes sense that I thought it, but I shouldn't have said it. Because I think it's a very natural thought for me to have, because I'm thinking like, oh, isn't it interesting? And I'm not saying this is this, but when certain times things are being foreshadowing, or sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And I'm thinking, ooh, does something like that happen later? And that's a natural thought for me to have, but I should have never said it. I should have never, ever, ever said that someone once remembers Alice. Ever.
In a Melanie style situation.
And I should be struck dead. I should be actually a knife taken and go like this.
Gross. Don't be this way. Don't be this way.
Okay. All right. Boopity boop.
Elsa freaks out. And then Liz doesn't babysit. And so she's like kind of mad at herself for telling Elsa the story in such a cold-hearted way. But Elizabeth was happy to have the whole evening unexpectedly free. Jessica and Lila were sure to be waiting for her at home with the Ouija board. And my marginalia reads, horny for spirit. Yeah, it's a recorder situation. Horny for spirits.
Even though doing a prank that someone's dying to someone else is not appropriate. Okay. And even though that's not something anyone should ever do, I did think it was pretty funny watching how Liz reacted to Bruce and like them showing how like Bruce is continuing to be his usual asshole self, but like Liz is seeing everything through this like patina of the dying and like puts this thing that like, oh, he's being so brave, or like, oh, he's making this choice to have a it's like, it is hilarious.
Yeah, she sucks.
And it even becomes more funny, I think, when he finds out what's going on. Jess is like in a moment of frustration. Bruce, you don't even know. She's just being nice to you because she thinks you're dying. We did a prank on her. And he's like, oh. And then he like goes along with it. Plays it up even more. It's of like, Liz, I just sometimes these days I have no hope. Can you cancel your plays with Jeffrey and come hang out with me at my tennis racket or whatever?
Oh, one thing I thought you were going to call our attention to is the fact that like, is it a prank to say Bruce is dying? Aren't we all dying?
Yeah, but they're saying he's terminally ill, I think.
Sure. Well, aren't we all terminally ill? We don't get out alive.
That's not the same as terminally ill. Like terminally ill means you know the illness that will kill you.
Oh,
We are all dying, of course, every second,
of course.
but we don't know what we're dying from. We don't know the thing that will kill us.
Many of us don't. Some of us do, and some of
We're
our
almost,
listeners might.
you could say we're not terminally ill, but we're terminally alive. We're terminal. We're all terminal.
That movie with Tom Hanks. Look at me mentioning a movie. I never get to mention a movie.
Well, it feels off.
I don't like it. And I don't know a single thing about the movie Terminal with Tom Hanks.
It doesn't quite work, does it?
No.
No, you stick to referencing your real life experience.
Fair enough.
It's just hilarious. I'm sorry, Elizabeth Bruce. Elizabeth lets him take her hand and go on the dance floor at the beach disco. And she's like, "How are you anyway?" She couldn't resist asking as she looked up into his handsome face. You know, it is kind of true. Lila's right. She has always kind of had a thing for Bruce, I think.
Yeah.
Just fine, Bruce murmured, grinning at her. Just fine. Elizabeth's heart, so all he's said is, "I'm fine," right? To "How are you?" Elizabeth's heart welled with emotion. Bruce was being so brave by pretending there was nothing wrong, she realized. For a moment, she thought she might cry. "So what was it I said anyway?" Bruce asked, after they'd been dancing for a while. "What?" "You don't usually have much to say to me, so I was wondering what changed your mind." "I just..." Raising her eyes to his, Elizabeth gave Bruce a long, meaningful look, trying to communicate her sympathy and support without bringing the subject out in the open. If he wanted to deal with it alone, she would respect that wish. "Nothing," she said in a choked voice. Bruce returned her look evenly. "Okay by me." He tightened his arms around her.
Gross.
Poor Bruce, Elizabeth thought. You don't have to pretend. She rested her cheek against his shoulder and sighed. Poor Bruce.
I love that.
Funny.
It's funny. I can't believe you're not making a bigger meal out of the fact that she notices
his handsome face.
Bruce is a good dancer.
Oh no. That hurts. That smarts.
Because you know who's not a good dancer? Who's not a good dancer, Pardo?
Jeffrey. I mean, we didn't say it yet, but she really is so rude to Jeffrey in this book and treats him really rudely and has this weird, I mean, again, we've seen it before. It's not really a surprise or inconsistent with her behavior, but like
her feelings for Bruce could be real and seem to somewhat be based in something, even if there's a kind of interesting possibility. There's also, when we're finding out that Bruce is ill, Lila says this is while we're still at the Ouija board when Bruce isn't around. He has been looking sort of, I don't know, tired maybe, Lila said hesitantly, but I'm probably imagining it. No, Elizabeth shook her head. No, I've noticed it too, but I never thought. And it's like, she is so open to the power of suggestion. She is such a little liar.
Exactly. And again, it's like what her worldview would describe as objective facts. It would be something like she thinks she has objectively noticed that he has objectively been looking unwell, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's because of this suggestion. Exactly. Can we go to chapter 8? Incel propaganda. The new woman at the newspaper, Anita Solars. We've only seen men be reporters until this book.
I assumed she was a secretary or something. She's a reporter.
I thought so. I thought they
No,
said
I was being kind of humorously misogynistic. Ha ha ha.
Oh, I knew that you were, but I thought you were saying that the book was being not humorously misogynistic. Okay. Redmond's kidnapping episode. This woman, Anita, had done some research and discovered interesting facts. The girl he'd fallen for had been pretty but insensitive, instead of letting Redmond down easily, which is what girls who don't deserve to be murdered do.
Mm-hmm.
She had teased and taunted him. Her popular and exclusive clique, football players and their girlfriends, had waged a campaign of practical jokes and insults against him. According to Anita, they turned Redmond and his unrequited love into the joke of Sweet Valley High. Evidently, that was one of the things that had sent him over the edge and driven him.
Mm-hmm.
Sent him over the edge and driven him to kidnap the girl. It's so disturbing.
I mean, on the one hand, we're being led to believe, or we're being ideologically smashed with the idea that It was the real problem is the taunting and the pranks that they're playing on him. That's what made it happen. But we also see Lila and Jess playing pranks on Liz. And there's just another, it's like the kind of, as you would say, like the recursivity between the Redmond plot and the revenge and the pranks and the Lila and the revenge and the pranks.
Yeah, it's like in his case, he's doing revenge because of a prank, which is the revenge-worthy thing. In their case, their revenge is a prank. So does that mean Elizabeth is going to owe them some revenge and is going to bomb Lila's mansion?
Or a kidnapper at the very least.
Just sneaks out to the movies, Terror in the Subway Part 4. There's the first of a few bomb threats, and they think there's going to be a bomb at the Valley movie theater, and it turns out it's a hoax.
It's a strange, sexless voice that calls, saying, "This is a friend calling. There's a bomb."
One of the ways that they try to sort of escalate the threat via misunderstanding or via convergence of plots is that part of Jess and Lila's prank on Liz was doing hang-up calls to her, but then Redmond is also doing hang-ups. And so Jessica finds out about the hang-ups that Liz has experienced while she's babysitting, but because Jess assumes that it's Lila, like what, she doesn't intervene sooner or something. It's like the idea that like that kind of misunderstanding or whatever is gonna like help this go on longer, sort of, even though it doesn't really make a difference. Jeffrey comes back, and it really reminded me of the moment where Todd came back and saw Liz on the right? When Liz was on the dance floor with Nicholas Morrow, and she and Todd were sort of, I don't know, quasi broken up or maybe not broken up yet, and he came back and whatever. With this, Jeffrey has come back to surprise Liz that he's home early from summer camp, and of course that was his quote-unquote secret good news, also known as a surprise. Elizabeth and Bruce are at the kitchen table, and she's telling him, "I think you're amazing, really." Bruce smiled at her, but then his gaze shifted to a spot behind her, and his expression underwent a dramatic change. Curious, Elizabeth turned around. "Jeffrey, what are you doing here?"
What? No,
Jeffrey hugged...
sorry. I need another line reading on that. Could you give me another line reading? Jeffrey, she gasped wide-eyed.
What?
You said, "What are you doing here?" But I think the italics would lead us to read it as...
I don't have italics.
What? Oh my gosh.
This is stunning. This is stunning. Is it what?
No, what are you doing here?
Oh my gosh.
You is italicized. Which, could you imagine if you come home to surprise your lesbian girlfriend, or in your case, I guess it would be a straight boy, but you're a lesbian, whatever. Could you imagine coming home to surprise them? And they're like, "What are you doing here?"
It's so much worse than "What are you doing here?"
Yes,
that's why that would be excited.
What are you doing?
You. Ooh. Jeffrey hugs her back, but his eyes are on Bruce. "I was finished early. I wanted to surprise you." His voice is stilted, and there's an undercurrent of tension. And she's like, "We were just about to go to the spirit rally. Now you could go too." And it's awkward. She and Jeffrey go, and she's like, "Bruce, you can meet us there or whatever." And Jeffrey's like, "What was that all about?" And Elizabeth cuts him off and kisses him and goes, "We're just friends. There's nothing between us." And he's like, "So why is he here?" Yeah. And she's like, "I can't tell you right now, but there's nothing for you to get nervous about." This is her first moment of being shitty to Jeffrey. And then after, the next thing is she makes plans with Jeffrey, and then Bruce, after Jessica and Lila tell Bruce that Liz thinks he's dying, he calls her and lays it on thick and makes her come meet him. He threatens desperation.
Yeah, I mean, he implies self-harm.
And then he implies self-harm. So Liz is like, "Okay, I'm going to go to him. Can you guys, like, don't tell Jeffrey why, but tell him I'll be back in a few minutes." And Lila sneakily tells Jeffrey on purpose, "Hey, she's actually with Bruce." Jeffrey goes to them, and that's how the three of them end up almost being bombed to the high school or whatever. But, like, when Jeffrey shows up at the high school, she gets so mad. She's like, "Jeffrey, like, why can't you trust me? They said I'd be back in a few minutes." And it's like, no, because you're doing sketchy behavior. Like, that's not enough, Liz. First of all, this is now the second time that something's weird vibe going on with you and him. And, like, you're disrespecting our plans that we had. I just got home. You're making me be waiting for who knows how long so you can hang out with Bruce, who you famously are supposed to hate, who you just were having an intimate moment in the kitchen, and all you can say is like, I can't tell you why. No,
No.
that's so rude.
Can we, through your editing magic, I have something I want to say that's earlier than this, but I think it must be said.
Fine.
Okay. So the night that Liz is babysitting for the Bartels and murderer comes over, Bruce asks to come over and she says no. And then he comes over anyways. And at this point, Bruce knows that Liz thinks he's dying. And so he says, like, I was feeling depressed. Sometimes I don't know why I keep trying to act like nothing's wrong. And Liz says, it's not such a bad idea, though.
Yeah.
Just keep living exactly the way you always have. Don't let this change you or stop you from doing what you like. It's like, Liz is so invested in this denial model. Like, this is how she manages everything. Just pretend nothing's happening. Just pretend you're fine. Oh, you're dying? Pretend you're not. Live like you're not dying.
It's like
the opposite of that country song.
dying should influence how you live your life. Yeah, I laughed.
Imagine if you're 16 and you've got a terminal illness diagnosis we know they don't have, but whatever. And you say to someone else, I'm so depressed, sometimes I don't know why I keep trying to act like nothing's wrong. And that person says, pretend nothing's wrong.
But that literally is the culture. Like,
Yeah.
That's not even, like, yes, it's crazy, but like,
Yes, it is.
and I think, again, 45 years ago or what have, like, it would have been even more the case that, like, this type of denial was so normative that, like, yeah, people don't talk about dying. They don't talk about illness. They do say, like, you're going to be fine. Everything's great. Just nothing's different.
And then finally, Liz is like, let's get lunch tomorrow. You should go. And he goes, you sure? And she says, definitely. And then softly, Bruce says, okay, I know when to back off. It's like, the fuck you do, asshole. You have no idea when to back off. You're a monster. That's all.
Yeah.
It's be true to your school night at the football stadium.
We get the second fake out from Redmond, but like Redmond's actually there this time. Liz sees him, not knowing yet that it's Redmond, just knowing that it's like the guy she saw at Elsa's house, who said he was a friend of Elsa, who like comes out of a room with Mr. Cooper, the principal, who's looking very uncomfortable. And Liz is like, And then they're like, there was a bomb, but it was actually just a fake again. She's like, well, I guess that was Redmond. Or like, still doesn't figure it out till she's like, staring at the newspaper. She's so dumb.
And I
wrote Liz being so dumb. Then
Wait, so are we at Be True to Your School night and Bruce and Jeffrey are fighting over her?
Yeah, they're still fighting.
On the one hand, Elizabeth felt flattered to have them vying for her attention. But on the other hand, she felt that Jeffrey at least should know better. After all, she had asked him to trust her. She wished he would simply have faith in her and relax. It's like, bitch, did you hear the beginning of your sentence? One of your whole hands is that you like this. Your other hand is that he should trust you.
Also, the nerve of her ever telling anyone to relax. Have you ever been relaxed for 1 second in your life, Liz? Ever?
And then the next page, she describes how they're fighting over her and says, they were like two dogs circling around a tasty bone, Elizabeth thought. And she didn't like being a tasty bone.
Or did she?
Huh? She definitely does like being a tasty bone.
Yeah,
and who
she
doesn't
does
like a tasty bone?
Then finally, Liz is like looking at the newspaper and she has to like take her pen and draw a mustache over it or whatever to figure out that it's the guy she keeps seeing. And then she calls Elsa. She's like, hey, Elsa, is that guy, this guy Redmond? And Elsa says no. And then Elsa's interiority. Did she believe me? I sounded so guilty. It was a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Donald, why are you doing this to me? Silently, she cursed her brother for seeking her out. 12 years ago, when he tried to kill their parents and had been committed, and Elsa and her parents had left town. Now the parents were dead, and Elsa and her husband now were back at Sweet Valley, but Donald had found her, and it's crazy, wild accusations, apologies, fear, nightmares. And she's thinking about how he said to her, like, what's Melanie doing here? And Elsa's like, that's strange. Melanie's the girl he kidnapped a million years ago. And she's like, no, Donald, that's not Melanie. Melanie's a grown woman now. That's my babysitter. And he's like, oh, okay, I guess you're right. And that satisfies Elsa at the time. Okay, that satisfies Elsa at the time.
May we all be as easily satisfied as Elsa, if you know what I mean.
That her brother, who actually has kidnapped and tried to murder people.
Her own parents!
Her own parents. And her brother, who, by all professional judgments, for the safety of himself and others, needs to be under 24/7 supervision by professionals, okay, is just out there thinking this person's that person and planning God knows what. And she's like, I can't turn him in, though. He's my brother, and he hasn't hurt anyone yet. What? And she's like, what should I do? What should I do?
It's pretty easy to know what you should do.
Meanwhile, Jeffrey is like wanting to buy a book of poems for Elizabeth, being such the sweetie.
Meanwhile, Bruce Patman laying down a credit card to buy a mountain of compact discs. The boys got the dollars.
And he goes to Jeffrey. Well. If it isn't the fearless Ranger Jeff, shouldn't you be outside making a birch bark canoe or something?
It's terrible. We did gloss over one quick moment in bad parenting.
Mm-hmm.
The girls are talking about how stressed out they are with these bomb threats and everything going on. And Alice goes in a serious tone, I'm afraid this situation is really building up. Her blue eyes were sad and anxious. Sooner or later, something is just going to explode. Truly insane.
Yeah, then Ned's like, I think Ned says something like, your mother's right. Like, if he's faking it, there's probably a real one going to happen.
And then Liz has the world's dumbest thought, which is, if that's the kind of panic you get with a fake bomb, what's going to happen when there's a real one?
It's like, don't be worried about the panic. Be worried about how it's going to kill you.
Yeah, like, did you miss what a bomb does?
It causes panic.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's a panic-causing device.
A PCD.
You know, Bruce manipulates Elizabeth to ditch her date with Jeffrey for him. She goes
by
to
saying
meet
he
him
should end it right now.
By saying he should end it.
Now.
She goes, Lila...
And listeners, sorry, if you're facing any kind of, do we need like a public service announcement here or no? Do you think we're fine?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because we're not describing a situation of that. We're describing a situation of like someone pretending of that. So I feel like it's like not necessarily gonna have the impact where someone's gonna be thinking like, wow, that like is resonating with me and reminding me of my own like self-harm shit.
Yeah, but if you're
and like if only I knew a number to call.
If you're pretending to be going through self-harm shit, I mean, still maybe call a number, talk to somebody. No?
There should be a number of, are you doing a hoax? Are you doing a cancer hoax? Housewives need it. A lot of housewives like to do cancer hoaxes. Okay. So Liz does that, and she's like, Lila and Jess, don't tell Jeffrey where I'm going, but just tell him I'll be back soon. So Lila tells Jeffrey that she went to Bruce.
Next, the red wire. Careful, gently, take it easy. Ah, perfect. That's Donald Redman, focusing on his work of art. A bomb of his own unique design.
And he's grimly efficient, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And his eyes are glowing with excitement, aren't they?
And of course, we don't know where he is, but then we hear unnamed voices. And then one voice calls another Bruce. And so we, the reader, know that it's Liz and Bruce, but Redmond doesn't, and we're still in Redmond's interiority, which I thought was an interesting choice.
But it calls it the Sweet Valley High Stadium before that.
Does? Yeah. I think yeah, because they're going to a football game, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying we know where we are because of that.
I don't...
154.
Oh, you're right. That's disappointing. Oh, do we not know that they're going to be at the Sweet Valley High Stadium? Liz and Bruce?
Hey, Robert, you were saying we just see Redmond. we know he's talking about his bomb, but we don't know where he is. But then we hear Bruce and Liz.
Yeah, but I think I got it backwards. We didn't know where Bruce and Liz were going to be, but it turns out they happen to be where the bomb is. Is there anything interesting here at all?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks for that deep, disappointed sigh.
And then he like sees Liz and he's like, that must be Melanie. I must trap her in this utility closet or whatever. Like,
She was after him. She was following him. She was trying to ruin everything. Then she would mock him and laugh at him when his plan failed. What a fucking weirdo.
you're not going to cheat me this time. This time I won't just steal you. This time I'll kill you. It reminds me of this saying, which is so true and sad, that men are scared women are going to laugh at them, and women are scared men are going to kill them.
Yes.
That's the world. Meanwhile, and then we go to Jessica, who is feeling restless, and she doesn't know why, but she's having a nagging feeling that something's wrong. And then Lila wants her to do a seance. And Jessica is like, fine. And this is when the seance says danger, stadium, EW.
Which I
And-
first read as ew.
Ew. Yeah, me too.
But it's Elizabeth
just-
Wakefield.
And Jessica's like, haha, Lila. And Lila's like, I'm not doing it. And Jess is like, I'm not doing it. She knew she hadn't pushed the planchette. A strange chill crept up her spine. You were pushing, and I don't think it's funny to say Liz is in danger at the stadium. But I did it, Lila said. You were doing it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. That's your idea of a joke. It's horrible, Lila. You were the one doing the planchette. You, outraged and frightened, Jessica picked up the planchette.
Not the planchette!
And hurled it across the room.
Don't hurl the planchette! What happened to the planchette?
Finally, Lila whispered, do you think it's real? No, yes, I don't know, Jessica gasped. When you and I first started fooling around with the board, Liz told me that she heard that sometimes people subconsciously control the planchette. That thoughts in their subconscious come out even though they don't realize it. But why would you or I think something like that? Lila said. And Jess goes, because Liz and I have always had this thing about knowing when the other is in trouble. A lot of identical twins have it.
But what about the planchette? She cried worriedly.
And she's like, we have to go to the stadium. So they're about to go to the stadium, but then Elsa shows up and like tells the truth about the thing.
I was afraid that would happen. I hate Elsa.
I hope, like, has she committed a crime? She
Yeah.
hasn't actively obstructed justice, but she withheld.
She's obstructed justice. He's on the lam. She knows where he is. That's obstructing justice.
Oh, I don't think so, Robert. I don't think that's a crime. I think it would be obstructing justice if, like, the police came to her house and asked her and she said no. You're saying that if you know it's you're saying it's a crime to not report someone? No. No way. That would be, like, really crazy. That would be, like, police state. Like, I mean, we already live in police state, but that would be, like,
if someone's a fugitive and you know they're a fugitive and they come to you and you do not turn them in, I believe that to be a crime. I believe that to be aiding and abetting a criminal.
But she didn't aid and abet him. It's the difference between active and passive. She didn't house him. She didn't give him money. She didn't help him orchestrate his plans. Literally, she just did nothing. He wasn't staying with her.
Some people think she committed a crime. This is a legal podcast. I think we need to see both sides of it.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Yeah, but I've been to Sweet Valley High Law School. Have you? It's a dual enrollment high school law school program. It's like Legally Blonde, kind of.
It's a GED JD. Okay.
I don't care.
Whatever. Elsa sucks.
Elsa sucks. No one dies.
But it's like, it's so stupid what happens. It's so stupid what happens. She and Jeffrey and Bruce are stuck in this utility room. He hasn't tied them up, but he's just like, go stand over there while I tell you about how great my bomb is and like explain all my plans to you. And they're like, oh, let's keep him talking. So he explains the bomb. And then he's like.
But they're three very, very physically fit 16-year-olds.
He's not even looking at them. He's not even watching them.
They could do whatever they wanted. They could save themselves.
But it's like well, and they do, but it's like very chemistry test what happens, because it's like, first she's like, oh, but like if you're making a bomb and you're here, aren't you going to die from it? And he's like, no, I'm smart. I know how to make a remote control for my bomb so I can be safely at a distance when I press it and explode all of you.
Which is smart.
But like, So then what happens is, to be brave, Bruce takes the bomb and runs out with it like it's a fucking football. And you're like, oh, so Bruce decided to just like go explode himself? This is what we're doing? And then Liz and Jeffrey, again, like, I don't know, like Redmond isn't what?
So while he's still explaining it, he says, I planned on exploding the bomb tomorrow night, but now that you're here, I'll have to blow it up tonight. What? You were going to do it when it was full, and now you're going to do it now with just the three of them? What a waste of a bomb. Slit their throats.
Well, is it because tomorrow night's the rescheduled endless summer party and it's at the school?
I
Or
thought
whatever?
so.
Right, but so tonight is nothing. Tonight isn't crowded.
I know, so
That's
why
why
would he do it tonight?
he wasn't going to, because he just wants to kill Elizabeth because he thinks she's Melanie and he's so mad about that.
Just kill her then, and then save the bomb for tomorrow night and kill everybody else. Like, what a terrible criminal.
Yeah, but he's not rational.
That's the hardest part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bruce takes the bomb, runs out with it, and they're like, oh no, but it's gonna go off soon or whatever. So Liz and Jeffrey are like, oh, if we smash the like clock, the like countdown clock, that'll turn off the bomb. If we just like smash it to pieces and like all the wires that are in that, because we have this like remote clock. So they break the clock and they're like, it worked because the timer stopped timing. But then it's like, no, they just broke the clock. It didn't work. We hear the bomb explode. They're like, oh no, Bruce is dead. And then it turns out Bruce is alive because Redmond grabbed the bomb from him. And Bruce ran far enough. And then only Redmond's dead. Like that whole,
Wait,
like,
he dies?
yeah. Does he not? Yeah, he did. He does die in the end because he grabbed it away from Bruce, didn't he? And he killed himself in the end with it, I think. Am I wrong?
Once I stopped talking about the planchette, I kind of stopped
No, because
reading so carefully.
because it makes no sense, Robert. It's so chemistry test, those last details about the bomb. Like they're really crazy. Okay, listen, because it's when they realize Bruce is alive, I'm gonna tell you.
No, Redmond got away.
They think Redmond got away. Wait, did? Oh yeah, Redmond got away.
But did
Where's
he?
Redmond?
Thank you for listening to our podcast where we figure out what happened in the book in real time. Maybe that's our next episode. We just read the book together.
Listen, he got away, but he didn't get away because Bruce goes, he grabbed it from me and ran. He was laughing. Feeling sick, Elizabeth put her arms around Bruce. The horror was too great to think about. Bruce had just barely escaped with his life, but Redmond had died a grisly death at his own hands. Then the
Okay.
police officers come, and I don't think that gets
No, it
debunked.
doesn't get debunked.
Yeah, he died at his own hands. But it's like, why? Again, he's not rational, but it's like, why did Bruce run out with it? Why did Jeffrey and Elizabeth think smashing it would work? Why does it then they think it works because it breaks the clock, but then they're wrong about the clock, so it turns out it doesn't work, so it does explode, but it's not Bruce, but it's him. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're trying to
How
just make it
fast did he? So he grabs the bomb from Bruce and is able to run far enough away that Bruce is fine. I mean, he's bleeding a little, of course, but
He's singed. He's just barely escaped with his life. He must be very singed. Very, very singed.
He better be
must be a
very
very singed boy.
and we
A
must
very
be very singed boys. So then, Elizabeth, how did you know? How did you know, Jessica, the Ouija board?
But it's like, it does make one say at the end, well, isn't it interesting that, the Ouija board, which of course was a prank, was telling us that Bruce was being in danger of being
And then he
dead.
was.
And actually Bruce was being in danger of being dead.
That is true. He was one of the ones in the danger zone of deadness.
So someone did die in the end, it turns out.
We just didn't know because we didn't read the book carefully enough.
It's not our fault. This is very confusing at the end. It's very stupid.
It's very stupid. And if you are a very stupid person,
If you are a very smart person, an electronics genius even, smart enough to even know how to design a sophisticated bomb with a remote control, you definitely are capable of opening up your Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hitting rate, hitting review, hitting subscribe if you haven't, and sharing it with a friend.
if you asked a girl out and she was rude to you and mean to you, and all of her friends are taunting and teasing you and playing prankings on you, why don't you be the pranking one? And why don't you take all of their phones and subscribe to our podcast on their phones?
Such the funny prank.
You would be the pranking one.
And everyone would laugh and laugh and laugh. And then in the yearbooks, they're going to say, most likely to be doing a hilarious prank that we all remember and applaud. You, listener, insert your name.
I always thought insert your name was my favorite listener. Don't tell that I have favorites, but okay.
Well, after this, we got Teacher Crush. And I told you before, but I'm just going to remind you. Teacher Crush
Micro courses.
It is about the micro courses, but it also
Or mini courses. Sorry, mini courses.
sorry, mini courses. But also in the course of the book, it drops an announcement of something that happens that is not trivial.
Mini courses. Maximum reward.
Thanks for listening to Sweet Valley Hive, hosted by Robert Marks and Rebecca Pardo. For more, check out our Instagram at Sweet Valley Hive. Theme song by Yessie and artwork by Elliot Carroll.